Hey, it's Debbie Potts, and I'm recording a new solo rabbit hole podcast to figure out how you might be able to improve your VO2 Max score.
Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey guys, it's Debbie, and I just wanted to give you a quick little message from one of our sponsors, LMNT, Element. It's spelled LMNT, but pronounced Element. If you haven't heard about this, Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means there's a lot of salt with no sugar, and it's formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs and is perfectly suited for those doing a keto, low carb, or paleo diet. And I think this is great for athletes, especially in the summertime and when you're training in warmer climates. Element contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio of 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. None of the junk, no sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers. That's it. I like the unsweetened one because the other flavors do have a little stevia, but stevia doesn't do well in my body. So I prefer the unsweetened Element, and I like the packets because I can throw them in my bike bag when I go on a long bike ride or when traveling, and I can just dump a packet in my water, and it keeps me so much more hydrated. Because remember, we don't sweat out water, we sweat out minerals. So check it out. You've got a nice little gift from them if you use our discount code Drink Element. I'll put the link in the show notes. But using the code Low Carb Athlete, you get a free gift with purchase. You get a free Element sample pack with any order when you order with Low Carb Athlete on our special URL code. So support the podcast, support Element. It's backed by science, and we love what they're doing. So try it out. All right. We have been talking about heart zone training, VO2 max, metabolic health, muscle health a lot lately. It's a hot topic. But I want to dive into the why, as I always do. So that's why I'm bringing you more episodes of my solo podcast talking about different subjects as I go down different rabbit holes to understand more. So let's dive into how you can improve your VO2 max. But first, let's go over some key definitions just to refresh your memory. So if we're trying to improve the aging process, why is that? We want to live a longer, healthier, high quality, happy life, right? Who wants to age, be 80, 90, 100 years old and feel like crap and you're grumpy and you hate life? So you want to train yourself today to be the best version of your future, yourself in the future, right? So we want to, ideally, you're on the same mission. You, me, everyone hopefully wants to live a happy, long life. Be happy and healthy. So to do that, we hear the word metabolic health. We want to be metabolically healthy. That refers to the overall health of your metabolism. And that is a key marker for aging, not just VO2 max, but we want to look at overall metabolic health. So when someone is metabolically healthy, their body can regulate blood sugar levels, manage insulin effectively, and maintain the appropriate levels of metabolic markers. Now, you'll hear about different measurements, markers to see, are you metabolically healthy? If you score 3 or more of these items being elevated markers or out of range, then you are probably not as metabolically healthy as you should be, and you have some areas to improve. So several markers include blood sugar levels, testing your glucose, insulin sensitivity, so getting someone to measure insulin before you're diabetic. That is only $14 if you do it on your own in Alta Labs or some other self-testing measurement websites. You can go to LabCorp and get that done. Now, A1C, your doctor usually does. This is measuring your blood sugar average over the past 2 to 3 months, and that gives an insight on your long-term glucose control. We have our lipid panel you always get from the doctor, but ideally you get more than just the basic cholesterol, triglycerides, HDL, and LDL. We want to look at more of that type of LDL. And don't forget to go back to previous episodes on what high cholesterol might indicate. So it's not just you need statin drugs, you're going to have high cholesterol, you're going to have heart disease, but looking at other correlations to elevated cholesterol. So lipid panel is a big one. Abnormal lipid levels can indicate metabolic issues, but also thyroid and congested liver and other things we've talked about. Waist circumference, that's the old school one, but excess abdominal fat linked to insulin resistance and metabolic dysfunction. So you're just measuring around your waist, and that is a simple measurement to assess your abdominal obesity. Blood pressure. High blood pressure can be a sign of metabolic syndrome, a cluster of conditions that increase risk for heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes. And then there's inflammatory markers. It's associated with metabolic disorders. C-reactive protein is hopefully on your metabolic test or your blood chemistry panel, called CRP for short. And there's other inflammatory markers that can measure inflammation as well. And then for sure you want to look at your liver health. So liver enzymes markers in your blood chemistry panel your doctor will do is AST and ALT. That can indicate liver health as well as GGT. And that is an important part of your metabolic processes, is how well does your liver function. So metabolic health is closely linked to aging and longevity. So not just looking at our VO2 max to improve longevity, but we want to look at metabolic health markers, which all of this can be improved by VO2 max, right? But also muscle health. And so when we're focusing on zone 2 and sprint training so much, we need to go back and remember what Dr. Gabrielle talks so much about, muscle health. And muscle health refers to the overall well-being and function of the muscles in the body. Muscles play obviously a crucial role in supporting movement, posture, and regulating body temperature. And as we age, we just don't want a high VO2 max. We also want to have high muscle mass. So as I've been sharing the last year and a half since my dad passed away, watching my mom, as I just was with her this week, but seeing what happens as you get older, I think around late 70s, 80s, you start to see sarcopenia in older adults. And if you have family members, you might be more passionate about helping people understand the importance of muscle health as myself. So we really want to look at muscle health as we age for improving longevity. Obviously, I said mobility and functionality, but also your metabolism and weight management. So when I do my PNOE metabolic testing, we're looking at how many calories are you burning a day at rest, and then TDEE, just which are the movements throughout the day, some more getting up and moving all day long, more movement, fidgeting kind of movement. You can add in more calorie burning. And then we want more lean body mass, as you hear Dr. Gabrielle talk about suitcases. Our muscle health is linked to insulin sensitivity, and maintaining healthy muscles can help regulate blood sugar levels and reducing risk of diabetes. So being more insulin sensitive is really important, especially us females that are aging. Our hormones get lower, we're more insulin insensitive. So more reasons to have larger suitcases, which are your muscles, so you can store more glycogen. So it's more a deposit for that glycogen. And then insulin sensitivity, we can help with our exercise, right? So bone health, cardiovascular health, mental health, longevity, of course, and quality of life is what we're looking for muscle health and metabolic health. So just to tie that in, then it's just not about that VO2 max number. We need to look at the whole picture and not just isolate one marker. And we get so focused with social media and other podcast influencers that we're looking at more the holistic method, where I'm looking at the whole you from the inside out, looking at the blood chemistry markers, looking at your VO2 max and looking at your body composition. So we really want to make sure we're not losing muscle, we're gaining muscle as we age, and it's a lot more work. So that's why we want to focus. Hopefully you are going to that 1 pound of ideal body weight is equal to how many grams of protein you're trying to hit per day in that 30 to 50 gram dose spread out, say every 3 to 4 hours. And if you're like me, you can't eat that much protein a day and getting that goal number, you have to supplement where you can't get enough protein in through real food. So always choosing nutrient dense food before supplementing, but proper digestion is number 2. You eat all this great food. Eating food that you're not reactive to, doing food sensitivity tests is another marker you want to look at, but also digestion. We want to properly slow down, chew our food, making sure we're getting that protein broken down into amino acids. So we're using that food for our body to help build muscle. So we want to have that protein in throughout the day. Perhaps you need some digestive enzymes, which some HCl. You can order supplements on my FullScript account and get a discount. And there's really high quality functional medicine supplement companies as Thorne, and Body Health has a really good digestive enzymes I've been taking. That you can order on FullScript. So let me know if you want that link. Now, loss of muscle, sarcopenia, happens as we age. And so really the connection of insulin resistance as we age and why exercise is so important, not just VO2 max training, but your muscle mass. So go back to listen to my other rabbit hole episodes if you want to dive into all these different subjects. But muscle mass and insulin sensitivity is really important, as well as protein synthesis and muscle health, physical activity, insulin sensitivity, inflammation factors, because many of us have this low grade inflammation. And as you know, the word chronic is not always well, I don't know if it ever is positive, but positive would be acute stress, not chronic stress is usually more negative type of stress. So low grade inflammation that's chronically happening is associated with insulin resistance. So exercise and muscle health can help with that and mitigate insulin resistance by reducing inflammation. And then nutrient sensing and insulin signaling. So another episode I'm going to do for next week is mTOR versus AMPK pathway, because I find everything is kind of that Goldilocks effect. Not too much, not too little, just that right amount. And when we talk about fasting and cell autophagy, we hear mTOR is bad. We need to get mTOR just down regulated and upregulate AMPK pathway to help cell autophagy. Now, that isn't saying mTOR is bad. We need mTOR to build muscle. So everything is inappropriate in the right amounts. Like cortisol isn't bad. Insulin isn't bad. You need certain things to be anabolic, build muscle, versus being in a catabolic state all the time. So everything needs to be in balance and trying to put everything together. But I put a lot of these notes into my blog posts. That's just different questions I ask and research, and zone 2 versus sprints, and what do we need to do as we age to improve our body composition so we can improve our longevity. But going to the topic we're eventually getting to today, VO2 max. So that's just wanted to summarize that it's not just longevity isn't about VO2 max number. That's one part of the puzzle. And how do you test your VO2 max? I've spoken about in previous episodes. But then what do you do with that number? Who cares? It's a number. Say it's 35. What does that mean? And if you're supposed to have a higher VO2 max to have a better sign of your aging process, higher quality longevity marker, what do you do to improve it? So I'll move on to the different types of articles I found on VO2 max. And I put it in a previous episode with Dr. Rhonda Patrick's suggestion, but let's go into some of these articles on the internet here. Okay, so let's go to the main topic because I can go on this for hours. So what is a good VO2 max? An average VO2 max by age and sex. So I found some articles online. I'll put the links in the show notes so you can go read them yourself. But remember, VO2 max is another training metric. It's just another number, a goal. And your VO2 max is a volume of oxygen, maximum amount of oxygen that your body's able to use while exercising at high intensity. So There in itself, you should hear the words high intensity, maximum amount of oxygen you can uptake. So to test your VO2 max, obviously, instead of estimating or predicting your VO2 max, if you want to know your VO2 max, you have to get to your maximum, your high intensity. So it's not an easy test to do. If you're doing it right, if you do the correct parameter check as I do, and then do the test, kind of RPE check, and then figure out protocol for you based on your current fitness level. So you're not having to be an elite athlete to do this. It's for anybody. And ideally, people that aren't active are doing these tests, because I'm trying to say that it's not just for performance. It's obviously, as we're talking today, for longevity. So we want to look at what test do you want, a modality. So if it's on the bike or a treadmill, you can do it hiking, walking if you're not a runner, or obviously running on a treadmill. But you have a 9 to 12 minute test that we go up every minute in intensity. Could be grade, and it could be also speed, obviously, is what I usually do. And that a percentage of incline for runners stays at 2%. We go up every minute. So every minute in speed till you hit your maximum or need to stop. Now, your average VO2 max, this article talks about, depends on your age, gender, sometimes height and weight, but there's not one value of what you should be. There's different charts of a good or optimal VO2 max, but I would really take all these tests as your body fat test, your blood chemistry marker, really looking at this for your baseline. Now, I'm doing Wild Health Fellowship program next 6 months, which is why this podcast might be less interviewing people, because I don't have as much time, because I have classes every Wednesday and Thursday and homework to do while I have a full-time coaching job running my own business. So the VO2 max and getting the Pinoy metabolic testing, getting this information is really going to be helpful to figure out how you should improve your VO2 max, your fitness level, but really, again, aging. How do you improve the future self? So looking at your genetics, as we do in Wild Health program that I'll be adding into my own coaching services, is really fascinating, because then we can really personalize. How do you, your unique self, need to get more fit or improve your longevity markers, depending on what your goal is? So this article I found on marathonhandbook.com, What is a Good VO2 Max, has a big long article on the nitty gritty of VO2 max, how it varies with age and gender and how it's measured and how you can improve it. So the article, how it's measured, workouts to improve your VO2 max, is what I want to focus on. So this article has 6 workouts to improve your VO2 max. Now, I'll say, read some of this article, but I'll kind of add in my own opinion based on Pinoy metabolic testing, because go back to heart zone training that I do, creating your 5 zones. When I do metabolic testing and assessment, I analyze the data and create the 5 training zones with you and give you your Pinoy report and set goals up for you. So these workouts and all these articles and what you hear on podcasts, how you need to improve your VO2 max is going to be different, and what heart rate is that intensity for you. So if you're doing sprint training, doing 10, 20, 30 seconds, as Dr. Stacy Sims talks about, you have to just go all out. You don't need a heart rate monitor for that. You should know that, oh my gosh, I can't make it this speed for another 10 seconds. It feels like an eternity. So that's going to be sprint training. But when you're doing these 1 to 4 minute pieces we're talking about in these articles, that is where I really wish everyone would get tested, because you don't know what that is. You don't know really your zone 2, because when I do metabolic testing and ask people, where are you training now? What heart rate? What are your workouts been doing? How do you feel your kind of endurance training in zone 2 is? Most people are training in zone 3, which is kind of that gray hole, not slow enough to be easy, and it's not, or it's too easy to be hard, too hard to be easy. So these workouts, number 1 on this article, marathonhandbook.com, the best results, you should keep your VO2 max effort interval between 3 and 5 minutes. This is why these 6 workouts I talked about, and this is what Dr. Rhonda Patrick was talking about in her show, reviewing some research, as the Norwegian 4x4, which is 4 minutes. So a lot of them say that you need to be 1 to 4 minutes, which is not zone 5. It's more zone 4, top of zone 4. So to improve your VO2 max and your cardiorespiratory fitness, you need to work at a high exercise intensity close to or at your current VO2 max. However, this is quite uncomfortable effort levels, so the interval of the VO2 max will not be very long. Think of it as a HIIT style, so high intensity interval training. But I'll put side note, HIIT training, people do wrong. They just keep the heart rate up there. So again, people are not really in high into zone 4 and bottom of zone 5 if they're doing this 1 to 4 minute piece. And also, you do it once, you need to recover. So this workout, VO2 Max long interval training, warm up for 10 minutes. I need 10, 15 minutes. I need more than that. But run 3 minutes at your VO2 Max plus a 3-minute recovery jog. Now, I'll correct this. 3-minute recovery jog, most people is not going to get them down to zone 1. If you listen to my 2-part series with Dr. Daniel Cumberbatch, he's not doctor, but Daniel Cumberbatch, he should be a doctor. He's got so much education. But a true interval, as doing these VO2 max workouts that everyone's talking about, needs to be down in your zone 1. So again, ideally, you get your metabolic test and assessment with someone that understands it and knows, okay, what is my goal heart rate to stay at for 3 minutes at your VO2 max? What is that for you? You're not going to know unless you do testing. And then you're doing a 3-minute jog. You do this article says 4 times. So I'm doing kind of that 4x4 Norwegian thing, is the 4 minutes off, 4 minutes on. So this is a 3x3. You do it 4 rounds and then you warm down. So this is light jog. Now, to me, a cool down is light jog to walking. As you improve, you can increase the interval at your VO2 max or decrease your activity cardio recovery jog. Now, I don't agree with that either, because I think you're not going to be able to hold and do a quality piece of 3 minutes unless you get all the way back down. So make sure you recover before you go back up again. Now, workout number 2, they have listed VO2 Max long interval training. This is warm up for 10 minutes, light jog. So these are for runners. Obviously, the website's marathonhandbook.com. Run for 4 minutes at your VO2 Max, then a 3-minute recovery jog. Do this 4 times. Same comments I would add in there. Instead of your time, you can measure your workouts by distance. Be sure your time of VO2 Max stays between 3 to 5 minutes. So track workouts might be great, doing 400-meter repeats, 200-meter repeat, recover, and then do 400 meters or choose. So you've got workout number 3, VO2 Max long interval training, warm up for at least 10 minutes, run 1K at your VO2 Max, 3 to 4 minute recovery jog. Repeat this 4 times. So that's doing it more of a track workout. Now, they call this aerobic fitness workouts, are short and sweet. So you should want to call it quits after the last intense exercise repeat. So I always find that if I can go longer, I'm not pushing myself hard enough. And if I'm doing interval repeats, even like my 10, 20 second, or I've been doing 20, 30 seconds, I don't keep doing them if I'm getting slower. So you got to pay attention when to quit. So workout number 4, VO2 Max tempo training and a fast finish. So this article says with tempo runs, the high intensity intervals will be longer, and therefore the desired effort level for the longer section will be lower from 100% to 85% of your VO2 max and bounce back up for the closer. So this workout is warm up 10 minutes, light jog, run 10 minutes at a tempo effort, 80 to 85% of your VO2 max. Recovery, 5-minute jog. That could be a jog walk. And then remember that's zone 1. When it says recovery, that's zone 1. Run 3 minutes at your VO2 max plus 3-minute recovery jog 4 times. Cool down, warm down 10 minutes, light jog or walk. So it says as your tolerance for running at this hard effort increases, you can gradually increase the time of your tempo run. So what is 80 to 85% of your VO2 max? Again, testing, not guessing. So that would be ways you can improve your VO2 max. Other thing is they talk about was what I choose to do, hills. So hills is a great way to get my heart rate up. It's not good for tempo or my turnover. The running downhill does. But if you find a hill with 3 to 5% grade, because you don't want it too steep, you can't run, that is a great workout. Now, this is what I like to do. This is their workout number 5. VO2 max hill training. So warm up 10 minutes on a flat surface close by. Run 3 minutes uphill or just below your VO2 max. Jog back down starting point. Do that 6 to 7 times. Warm down. As you improve, increase the uphill interval. Now, if you ever come to San Diego or if you live here, North San Diego, you can do this workout. Is what I do every other week. Wednesdays, I typically go Solana Beach, Fletcher's Cove, and do a speed workout to Cardiff, and that's more flat, and I do stairs as part of my short sprint workout. But then the other days, we go to Torrey Pines. So we park by Bird Rock Coffee and get a nice mile warm-up running to the base of Torrey Pines Hill, and then that all the way up towards the golf course is hill, and then it levels out, and then come back down. So if you can do 3 minutes up and then jog back down, your heart rate should come down to your zone 1 or walk if you need to. So that's one of my favorites because I know my heart rate will go up. Now here's another one, workout number 6, VO2 max hill training. Same kind of thing, warm up 10 minutes, run 5 minutes uphill or just below your VO2 max, jog back to your starting point, recover 4 times. Repeat 4 times, and then warm down. So that's a great one. I mean, that's what I know. It's slight incline hill is good to do if you have a hard time getting your heart rate up. Or, as I did this morning, I ran on the treadmill. I did one set of Tabatas just to work on my speed. But I like that one. So hills are fun. I'd rather go outside. Treadmill is just, but treadmill's great for speed work. Now, that's on one website. Here's another article on boosting your VO2 max and extend your life expectancy. So, of course, according to Dr. Peter Attia, so everyone thinks he's God now, outlive the science and art of longevity. No other metric is closely associated with the life expectancy as VO2 max. So, discover how to test your VO2 max and boost it. This article has an 8-week workout plan and cutting-edge research for optimal results in the shortest time. So it goes on to explain what VO2 max is and how to improve it. So they talk about in this article, what's this say? Modern Med Life. How to improve your VO2 max involves a combination of regular exercise, specific training methods, and lifestyle modifications. Here's some evidence-based strategies to enhance your VO2 max. Regular exercise, physical activity, effective way to improve your VO2 max. Doing at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity are the guidelines, or 75 minutes of vigorous activity per week. Combination with both, preferably spread out throughout the week. That's American Heart Association. Now, we hear about HIIT training. Again, high intensity interval training is short bursts of intense training. So you have to look at Stacy Sims talks about sprint interval training, and Brad Kearns talks about this a lot. Sprint interval training it's a subsection of HIIT training. So sprint training is at 10 to 30 seconds, top end of your zone 5. When you hear the word HIIT training, I think of that as that one, longer than a sprint training. So say 45 seconds to 5 minutes max is what Stacy Sims said in her course I took. So high intensity interval training is going to be more my zone 4, maybe top end of a zone 4. And that would be that 1 to 5 minutes. So a little more zone 4 than zone 5. So HIIT training involves short bursts of intense training, alternating with low intensity recovery periods. Again, zone 4 to zone 1. Studies have shown that HIIT training is effective for improving VO2 max. And then there's long, slow distance training we keep hearing about, which always makes me laugh. Zone 2. Can we hear any more about zone 2? Well, if you're an endurance athlete as myself for 25 years, you know that that's all we pretty much do 80% of the time is sprint training, long, slow distance, zone 2 training, maffetone. I keep talking about we did this for years. max aerobic function heart rate or get your zone 2 tested where you're burning the most fat. So what is long, slow training? That's running or cycling or, hiking, wrecking, slow pace for long duration. So I'd say 45 minutes to an hour and a half, and that's at zone 2 where you're burning the most amount of fat. And again, test that because everyone I've tested does not even come close to what their zone 2 is. So they're too low or too high. Training increases your body's ability to use oxygen and can help improve your VO2 max. So your zone 2. And then they actually talk about strength training. This is important doing circuit training. Combining cardiovascular exercise with resistance training can also improve your VO2 max. And that's from a 2005 article in Journal of Strength and Conditioning. Healthy lifestyle can contribute to improving your VO2 max, they say, with what you're eating, getting enough sleep, managing stress, avoiding smoking and alcohol. Regular testing, as I keep talking about, regular testing your VO2 max can help you track your progress and adjust your training program as needed to test your VO2 max every 3 to 6 months. So I have been speaking about that, and you can come to San Diego to find that. So they have actually an 8-week science-based workout plan to maximize your VO2 max in here. Now, again, every time you see these, they're great suggestions, but they're not personalized to you. And Stacy Sims would tell you as a female, and I messaged her team and I got the response that how should women that are post-menopause improve their VO2 max? And because she says, we don't need zone 2 as females, we need more sprint training. And we have need for more fast twitch muscle fibers as we already have enough slow twitch and we get slower as we get older. So of course, what to do if you are getting slower is to work on speed work, and women need more the sprint interval training, not this zone 4. We need more zone 5 with zone 1 in between each set. Now, so the workout is just general. You can look at this modernmedlife.com on VO2 max longevity and where to get it. So interesting suggestions. Remember, it's just general. They're not personalized to you. And obviously, I'm a coach, but you want to work with someone that can help you customize this. And always track your recovery. Look at genetics, how you might improve the most with what type of training. Also, if you need more recovery, using your Oura ring or your Whoop or intuition. Ideally, overall, that is, I don't feel really good today. I'm not going to do a sprint workout. And I must say, to do quality sprint workouts, you need to feel good, right? You need to have the energy. So prioritizing sleep, I'm almost going to start with clients on that first. Let's nail your sleep schedule and your sleep hygiene routine, how you start the day. Because if you don't get good sleep, everything else is crappy. So if you're eating late, you're drinking alcohol every night, you're burning the candles at both ends of the day, you're wearing yourself out, leading to chronic stress, your workouts aren't going to be great. You're not going all out because you feel like crap. So you need to prioritize sleep to get a good workout in. So interesting information. I'll put that link in the show notes. Let's see, there was another article from Marathon Handbook, how to make improvements to VO2 max, change in the intensity. That was another one. And then found a journal on, what was this one? On genetics of the VO2 max. This was really interesting as I'm doing the program with Wild Health Fellowship on genetics and VO2 max. So I talked about this in a previous podcast. What is the impact of endurance genes on your VO2 max in athletes? So I'll put that link in the show notes. That was a long PDF research article, but I like to look at people's genetics just to help me personalize what they're doing. So the DNA company is who I've used before. Originally, I used to use DNA Fit, and they got bought out by a different company, and they're kind of changed. But there's different ones out there, and obviously Wild Health is great. I will be doing podcasts with them coming up. But this article says there's results in the research papers used. A total of 8 genes were identified, along with one paper identifying mitochondrial gene clusters. Most of these genes were found to have only a small impact on VO2 max. So they had, I think I read it was 7% increase of VO2 max changes, but it identified some of the genes that they looked at that were a very small change on the VO2 max for people. So genetics aren't everything. It just help us I think they help us figure out how you should improve your VO2 max. So it was different ones, ACE, ACSL1, and the COL. I can't see it. I have glasses on, 5A, and then PPAR we hear about. So if you want to know more, I'll put that link in. Okay, one more thing, 2 more articles here. Garmin.com had a good article. Why isn't my VO2 max increasing? Well, one, you wouldn't know if it's increasing or not if you're not testing it. So you should be getting tested every 3 to 4 months you can get an update on how you should be training. So tips for increasing your VO2 max or getting faster is looking at what maybe you're not doing. Lack of high intensity efforts, inadequate recovery, lack of variety in your efforts, which reminds me, I used to do Ironmans like 2 a year because I do one Coeur d'Alene Ironman or Ironman Canada and then qualify for Hawaii. So I ended up doing 2 a year. And I used to say my body didn't change at all. I just did Ironmans for 15 years and I always felt like I needed to lose weight and get race weight. But all this training, I didn't lose weight after a while because your body got used to it. So you got to mix it up. So my body knew how to go long and slow. And that's why I believe what Dr. Stacy Sims says, that if you're already, good at endurance as a female, has more slow twitch muscle fibers than men, let's work on what we're not good at. And for me, that's just dropping the long distance stuff right now and doing more speed work. So if you're not getting results with your current program, you may want to push pause and reflect and figure out how differently you should maybe try training, try it out. So another area is highly trained athletes. Law of diminishing returns applies to training and increasing performance capacity. So simply put, as I'm just talking about, the fitter you are, the harder you must work to improve. Experienced endurance athletes who have been training regularly and effectively for many years are likely already to be near their peak of their personal aerobic performance capacity. And that was me back in my Ironman days. So a plateau in VO2 max is relatively familiar and common for those who've been training and competing in marathons for 5 to 6 years. Although some of those well-trained individuals, it may be possible to improve. So you have kind of your max that you're going to get. That's just more of that genetic part. Like that's as high as you're going to go. It doesn't keep going higher. So that's interesting. And then genetic potential we talked about too. This is on the Garmin article number 5 is our genetics, as I said, play a big role in how our bodies grow. And genetics also guide how our physiology adapts in response to challenges of life and in our environment. Some people are naturally taller, like me, and others are naturally stronger. Some people have natural advantages in their ability to fuel their performance aerobically. So these advantages can take form of total capacity, but also appear in the form of responsiveness to training activities. So in other words, not everyone improves at the same rate in response to similar training stimuli. It may just be a matter of time when you see the results you are working towards. You just need to keep challenging yourself regularly, recovering well, and getting enough sleep. Amen. So while they say not everyone has the same maximal potential, practically anyone can improve their VO2 max to some degree. Everyone healthy enough to be physically active can work towards achieving more health benefits, improved quality of life. So actually, I like what they're saying. This is something I keep talking about. It's quality of life. So improving your VO2 max, you can use your Garmin watch, kind of get an idea of your numbers, but understanding, getting it tested. Well, first we hear, why does VO2 max matter? What's so big about it? Why do we need to look at it? And then understanding what your VO2 max is that a higher VO2 max is generally better. A higher VO2 max means your body is better at taking oxygen from the air and delivering it to your muscles. The more oxygen your muscles can take, the more nutrients you can aerobically transform into the molecular fuel called ATP that your muscles use to contract and perform. This is important because your aerobic metabolic pathways are a far more efficient source of energy for your body. So is higher better? Yes, but how high is enough? So that's another good article from Garmin you can read about on what is a good VO2 max. Now, men versus women, research shows that men typically have more lean body mass than women, and women tend to naturally accumulate more fat tissue. Where fat deposits accumulates in the body varies between men and women. Men store fat around the trunk, abdominal, women storing more fat around the hips and thighs. Well, we know that. These natural differences in average body composition are important for understanding your personal VO2 max because muscles use oxygen while fat simply stores energy. So on average, this article says men have higher VO2 max values than women. So for a man and a woman with the same VO2 max, the woman will have better fitness level compared to her peer group. A top female athlete will almost certainly have a much higher VO2 max than the average male. However, she'll have a lower VO2 max compared to the top male endurance athlete. So this goes into what is good for my age. So if you want to know the numbers, I found this article before, but typical VO2 max fitness scores for men by age group, and you can look at that, and for females. So this is from the Cooper Institute. So say your age 50 to 59 age group for men, superior score for your VO2 max will be 48.9, excellent 48.4, 39.2 is good, 36.6 is fair, and then poor would be under 35.6 VO2 max for men in ages 50 to 59. Now, if you're female age group 50 to 59, excellent or no superior would be 41.1, excellent's 36.7, good is 33, fair 30.1, and poor VO2 max for women ages 50 to 59 is under 30.1. So good to know what you're striving for, but then going to get it tested first and then how to improve it. So good information on that as well. What I'm trying to do too is figure out what supplements would I take before aerobic exercise and what supplements would I take before a strength workout with sprint interval training, because that's going to use similar fuel source. So I asked Sean Wells to see if he wants to help me do this. So that's another thought to dive into another podcast. Last two articles, I'll put the links in. How to increase your VO2 max. This was on Gear Up to Fit. They had a long list of article on VO2 max on zone 2 and high intensity training, 40% no response to moderate intensity exercise, incorporating exercise. So there's all these training protocols they have listed in this one. So uphill and improving VO2 max, we talked about that. Zone 2 training, and does that help enough? You know, all that. So that's another good one to dive into. Runner's World had one and two articles. So that's some thoughts. So if you want me to list different workouts, it's hard for me because it always depends on you, right? We want to get our numbers. What is your zone 2? What is your zone 4 and zone 3? Or even, what's your 5 zones? So zone 1, you want to know because you have to know, okay, where do I need to come down to in my recovery before I go up again? Because that will take longer. If you don't do interval training correctly now, at first it'll take you longer in that recovery interval because you need to come down there. And then when you're doing your 1 to 4 minute zone 4 VO2 max workouts, as we've gone over a few of them, you need to get to that heart rate and hold it there for 4 minutes. So you may start your timer of your 1 to 4 minute piece if you're doing 3 minute or 4 minute, but you need to be holding that heart rate for that time. So it's like going up the elevator, you get down to your zone 1, say you're 110. If your zone 4 is say 150 heart rate, don't start your timer until you're in zone 4 at your goal heart rate. Hold that number for 1 to 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. That is how you are doing these VO2 max workouts. Not just guessing you're there, because you might not see as much impact in your fitness improvements if you measure your VO2 max again every 3 months. So that's a big takeaway. Remember to get tested, figure out what those 5 zones are for you, And then let's look at how you best need to train based on your current results in your fitness test, and look at genetics if you can, how you need to train to improve that VO2 max number and at what heart rate. So these workouts, VO2 max workouts, they're great, but remember, you don't know how to improve your VO2 max if you don't have that number, and you don't know what that VO2 max, to improve that VO2 max, you need that baseline data, but to improve, what is your zone 4? So I'll summarize these effective VO2 max and this gear up to fit, and then I'll stop talking. Effective VO2 max training protocols, the Norwegian, which Dr. Rhonda talked about in my video I shared, Norwegian 4x4 interval training. The 1 minute on, 1 minute off, longer intervals at highest workload, rest and recovery. Those are about 7 to 10 minutes. There's a 12-minute run or walk test. A popular way to estimate your VO2 max is a 12-minute run or walk test. Involves running or walking as far as you can in 12 minutes, measure the distance covered by this time, and you can estimate your VO2 max. So that's if you can't get a test. Wearable devices with real-time VO2 max estimation, as your Garmin might do this. So you can measure VO2 max with your wearable devices. Again, they're probably not accurate. Even the heart rate I find is not accurate on my Garmin watch unless I'm wearing the chest strap. So wear your chest strap, get a test if you can, figure out what those zone 4 and zone 5 numbers are for you to get to, and that's where your intervals start. So if you're doing that Norwegian, the 4x4 is 4 minutes at that number. Don't start when you're still down in your zone 2, you're going through zone 3. The timer goes, once you hit that number, start that timer. Okay, so I'll put all these links in the show notes. Let me know what you want to learn more about in my next rabbit hole episode. Enjoy. Hey, my fellow aging endurance athletes, just a reminder, if you like what you listened to today, make sure to share this episode with your community. Head to debbiepotts.net to set up a free discovery call to learn more about my personalized coaching programs, especially if you are on a mission as myself to improve the aging process and start training to be my best self when I am 80, 90 years old. So I am on a mission to live my best life and be my best self the second half of my life. So if you're on the same mission as me, head over to my website and YouTube channel to learn more ways to improve the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method.
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.